They smiled in front of me and planned my downfall behind my back. My best friend, my fiancé, my partner. They thought I'd never find out, but they forgot one thing: I built everything. The first time they betrayed me, it didn't feel like a knife to the back. It felt like silence, like the kind that creeps into a room after laughter fades, unnatural, suffocating, heavy with something unspoken. I remember standing outside the glass walls of our office, watching them through the reflection instead of directly, because something in my chest already knew I wouldn't like what I'd see. Three people I trusted more than anyone. Adil, my best friend since university. The one who knew how I took my coffee, who stayed up with me during nights we had nothing but instant noodles and impossible dreams. Sana, my fiancée. The woman who once whispered that she believed in me more than I believed in myself. And Bilal, our investor. The man who shook my hand and promised we rise together. They were laughing. Not with me. At something, or someone. At me. I didn't walk in right away. I just stood there, my reflection faintly merging with theirs on the glass. The office lights cast long shadows, turning their silhouettes into something unfamiliar, distorted, almost sinister. "He'll never see it coming," Bilal said, his voice low but clear enough to cut through the glass like a blade. Sanaa's laughter followed. Soft, beautiful, deadly. Adil leaned back in his chair, arms crossed like he owned the world. "He trusts us too much. That's his weakness." My breath caught. For a moment, I convinced myself I misunderstood. That maybe this was about something else. A joke. A misunderstanding. But then Sanaa spoke again. "We just need him to sign the final papers. After that, it's done. Done." That word echoed louder than anything else. My fingers curled into fists, nails pressing into my palms as reality began to settle in like a slow poison. The startup I built from nothing, the one I poured years into late nights, sacrifices, missed family events, all of it, was being taken from me. By them. I stepped inside. The door clicked softly, but it was enough. Their laughter died instantly. Three faces turned toward me, each one wearing a different version of guilt. Or maybe it wasn't guilt. Maybe it was calculation. "You're early," Adil said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in years, I didn't recognize him. "Yeah," I replied quietly. "Seems like I am." Silence stretched between us. Thick, suffocating. Sanaa stood up, smoothing her dress like she was preparing for a performance. "You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow." Not supposed to. That stung more than anything. Bilal cleared his throat, stepping forward with that same businessman confidence. "We were just discussing expansion plans." "Without me?" I asked. No one answered. And in that silence, everything became clear. I walked further into the room, my footsteps slow, controlled. My eyes moved from one face to another, memorizing every detail, the slight twitch in Adil's jaw, the way Sanaa avoided eye contact, the tension in Bilal's shoulders. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. "How long?" I asked. Adil sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder?" A hollow laugh escaped my lips. "So it's true." Sanaa finally looked at me. There was something cold in her eyes now. Something unfamiliar. "You were never meant to lead this company forever." Each word landed like a hammer. "I built this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Bilal stepped in again, calm and composed. "And now it needs someone who can take it further." "Someone. Not you." The message was clear. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a thread snapping. I nodded slowly, absorbing it all. The betrayal, the lies, the realization that everything I believed in, every bond, every promise, was nothing but an illusion. "All right," I said. They seemed surprised by how calm I was. Maybe they expected anger, shouting, desperation. But I gave them none of that, because in that moment, something changed. Something dark. "You want the company?" I continued, my lips curving into a faint, unreadable smile. "Fine." Relief flashed across Adil's face. Big mistake. Because what they didn't see was the storm quietly building behind my eyes. "You can have it," I said. "I'll sign whatever you need." Sanaa exhaled softly. Bilal nodded. Adil almost smiled. They thought they had won. They thought this was the end. But as I turned away, walking toward the door, one thought echoed louder than anything else. They betrayed me once. And I don't forgive. I destroy. The next morning, the city looked exactly the same. That was the strange thing about betrayal. The world doesn't stop. The sun still rises. People still rush to work, sip their coffee, laugh at things that don't matter. Everything continues, as if your entire reality didn't just shatter the night before. But inside me, nothing was the same. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of my apartment, watching the traffic crawl like veins of light beneath the early dawn haze. Islamabad always had a quiet kind of beauty at this hour. Soft, almost forgiving. But I wasn't looking for forgiveness. I was planning something else. My phone buzzed on the table behind me. A message. A deal. We'll meet at noon. Bring the documents. Let's finalize everything. Finalize. I smirked faintly. They were in a hurry. That meant one thing. They were afraid something might go wrong. Good. I turned away from the window and walked toward my desk. The same desk where, just months ago, Sana used to sit across from me, laughing at my terrible jokes. The same place where Adil and I had celebrated our first investor deal like kids who had just conquered the world. Now it felt hollow, empty, but not for long. I opened my laptop, fingers moving with quiet precision. If they thought I was just going to hand everything over, they clearly forgot who they were dealing with. I wasn't just the founder. I was the architect. Every line of code, every system, every backdoor, everything led back to me. A hidden folder opened, one that no one else even knew existed. Years ago, I had built a fail-safe into the company's core system. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I trusted no one completely. Inside that folder were files that could either protect everything or burn it all to the ground. My eyes scanned the screen, calculating, connecting pieces. A slow, controlled breath escaped my lips. This ends on my terms, I murmured. But revenge wasn't just about destruction. It was about timing and pain, the kind that lingers, the kind that makes people regret every choice they ever made. By noon, I was sitting across from them again. Same office, same glass walls, but everything felt different. This time, I wasn't the one being watched. I was the one observing. Sana looked relieved. She wore the same perfume I once loved, but now it felt suffocating. Adil was unusually quiet, tapping his fingers nervously on the table. And Bilal, he looked confident, too confident. Glad you came prepared, Bilal said, gesturing toward the file in my hand. I placed it on the table slowly. Oh, I'm very prepared. Adil gave a short laugh. Look, man, I know this isn't easy, but it's business. Don't take it personally. I looked at him, and for a brief second, I almost pitied him. You taught me that, I said calmly. Business isn't personal. Sana leaned forward slightly. Then let's not drag this out. There it was again. Impatience. They wanted this done quickly, which meant they had no idea what was coming. I opened the file and slid the papers toward them. Everything you need is here. Bilal immediately picked it up, scanning through the pages with sharp eyes. Adil leaned closer, trying to follow along. Sana, however, kept looking at me, studying me, like she was trying to figure out why I wasn't breaking. Why are you so calm? She finally asked. I met her gaze. Because I've already accepted reality. That wasn't a lie. Just not the reality she thought. Bilal nodded after a moment. Looks good. Once you sign, the transfer is complete. Complete. Such a dangerous word. I picked up the pen. For a second, everything slowed. This was the moment they thought they had won. The moment they believed they had taken everything from me. I signed. One stroke. Clean. Final. Adil let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Sana relaxed into her chair. Bilal smiled, a small, satisfied smile. Pleasure doing business, he said. I placed the pen down carefully. No, I replied softly. Their eyes lifted toward me, and for the first time, they saw it. That slight shift in my expression. That calm, turning into something colder. Now, I continued, standing up slowly. The real business begins. Adil frowned. What are you talking about? I adjusted my sleeve, glancing at the large screen mounted on the office wall. Tell me something, I said casually. Did any of you check the system this morning? Silence. Bilal's smile faded just a little. What do you mean? He asked. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Tapped once. The screen behind them flickered, then changed. At first, it looked normal. Then the numbers started dropping. Fast. Revenue charts crashing. Accounts freezing. System errors flashing one after another like a storm breaking loose. What the hell? Adil jumped to his feet. Sanaa turned toward the screen, her face draining of color. This isn't possible. Bilal grabbed his phone, panic finally creeping into his voice. What did you do? I smiled. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. I told you, I said quietly. Everything leads back to me. The room filled with chaos. Phones ringing, alerts screaming, systems collapsing in real time. Their empire falling apart, and all they could do was watch, just like I did last night. I took a step back, heading toward the door. Don't worry, I added, pausing for a brief moment. This is just the beginning. Behind me, their voices rose, confused, desperate, afraid. Perfect, because this time, they were the ones who didn't see it coming. Chaos has a sound. It isn't loud the way people imagine. It's not just shouting or alarms or things breaking apart. It's quieter than that. It's the trembling in someone's voice when they realize they've lost control. And that day, I heard it clearly. I didn't leave the building immediately. Instead, I stopped just outside the office, standing in the dim hallway where the flickering overhead light cast uneven shadows across the walls. Through the glass, I could still see them, no longer calm, no longer confident. They were unraveling. Adil was pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair like a man trying to wake himself from a nightmare. Sanaa stood frozen near the table, her eyes locked on the crashing numbers as if staring long enough might reverse them. And Bilal was on the phone, desperate. Fix this. I don't care how, just fix it, he snapped, his polished voice now cracked with panic. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching. For the first time, the balance had shifted. But revenge isn't just about watching someone fall. It's about making sure they understand why they're falling. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. There was silence for a second, then a familiar voice. You think this is over? Sanaa. Of course. I smiled faintly. No. I think this is where it starts. Her breathing was uneven. I could almost picture her, eyes sharp, trying to hold on to control that was slipping through her fingers. You're destroying everything, she said. This company, your dream. My dream. I cut in softly. You mean the one you tried to steal? Silence. Then, quieter this time, almost defensive. We were trying to save it. I let out a low laugh. No, I said. You were trying to take it. That hit. I could feel it through the silence that followed. You always underestimated me, I continued, pushing away from the wall and slowly walking toward the elevator. You thought I was just the emotional one, the one who builds things, but doesn't protect them. That's not true, she said quickly, but it sounded more like she was trying to convince herself. Isn't it? I stepped inside the elevator, pressing the ground floor button. Then tell me something. Sanaa, when did you stop loving me? The question lingered, heavy, uncomfortable. For a moment, I almost didn't want to hear the answer. I didn't, she finally said. I closed my eyes briefly. A lie. A soft one. A careful one. But still a lie. Love doesn't betray, I replied quietly. It doesn't sit in a room and plan someone's downfall. Her voice hardened. You're not innocent either. You built a system to destroy everything. That's not love either. The elevator doors slid open. I stepped out into the lobby, the cold air hitting my face like a reset. No, I said. That's not love. I paused. That's survival. And then I hung up. By evening, the damage had spread far beyond what they expected. News had started circulating. Investors were pulling out. Clients were demanding answers. The company's reputation, carefully built over years, was cracking in hours. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because this was never just about the company. It was about them. Individually. Personally. I sat in a quiet cafe across the street from the office building, the faint smell of coffee and rain lingering in the air. My laptop was open, screen glowing softly as lines of information filled it. Profiles. Records. Secrets. Everyone has something they hide. And I had spent years noticing things. Adil's gambling problem. Small at first, then worse. Debts he never told anyone about, not even me. Bilal's clean investments, not so clean. Offshore accounts, questionable deals. Things that, if exposed, would do more than just ruin his business. They'd destroy his reputation permanently. And Sanaa, I hesitated for a second. Her file sat there untouched. Not because I didn't know anything, but because I knew too much. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly as memories tried to push their way in. Her laughter, her voice, the way she used to look at me like I was enough. I clenched my jaw. That version of her didn't exist anymore. The woman who betrayed me? She was someone else, and I had to treat her that way. My fingers moved again. One click, then another. Emails scheduled, files prepared, truths ready to surface. Not all at once. No, that would be too easy. Too quick. This needed to unfold slowly, painfully, like everything they put me through. Step by step, I whispered. A message popped up on my screen. Adil, we need to talk. Please. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. Now you want to talk? The reply came instantly. This is going too far. I smiled. Finally, they were starting to understand. I closed the laptop gently, standing up as the evening sky darkened outside. No, I murmured to myself. This is exactly far enough. Because the truth was, I hadn't just started destroying their company. I had started dismantling their lives. And this time, I wasn't stopping. Revenge isn't loud. It doesn't always arrive with explosions or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it's quiet, calculated, precise, and by the time people realize what's happening, it's already too late. The rain started just after midnight. Soft at first, then heavier, drumming against the windows of my apartment like a restless heartbeat. The city blurred beneath it, lights smearing into streaks of gold and red. Perfect. Storms always made things feel inevitable. I sat in the dark, my laptop casting a cold glow across the room. The files were ready, timed, waiting. All it would take was one click. My finger hovered over the trackpad for a moment, not because I was unsure, but because I understood exactly what this meant. There was no going back after this. Not for them. Not for me. I exhaled slowly, then clicked. By morning, everything had changed. It started with a deal. A single anonymous email sent to the right people. Quiet, untraceable, devastating. Screenshots, bank records, proof of debts he had buried under layers of lies. By 9 a.m., his phone wouldn't stop ringing. By 10, his accounts were frozen. By 11, the calls stopped. Not because things got better, but because no one wanted anything to do with him anymore. The law came next. His exposure wasn't subtle. It couldn't be. Men like him didn't fall quietly. They shattered publicly. A carefully packaged report was leaked to financial regulators and media outlets. Offshore accounts, illegal transactions, names connected to deals that were never meant to see daylight. By afternoon, his empire wasn't just shaking. It was under investigation. And men like Bilal, they don't fear loss. They fear exposure. And now, he had nowhere left to hide. Which left Sanaa, the hardest one, the most dangerous one, because destroying her wouldn't just be strategy. It would be personal. My phone rang around noon. Her name flashed across the screen. For a moment, I just stared at it. Then I answered. "You've crossed the line," she said immediately. Her voice wasn't shaky this time. It was sharp, controlled, angry. I almost smiled. "Which line?" I asked calmly. "The one you erased first." "You're ruining lives," she snapped. "A deal is finished. Bilal, do you even understand what you've done to him?" "Yes," I said simply. Silence. Then quieter. "And me?" That question lingered. Not angry. Not defensive. Just heavy. I walked toward the window, watching the rain slowly fade into a dull gray sky. "You haven't figured it out yet?" I asked. "No," she admitted. "Because this doesn't feel like you." I let out a slow breath. "It isn't," I said. And that was the truth. The man she knew, he wouldn't have done this. He would have forgiven. Moved on. Let them win. But that man died the moment I heard her laugh in that room. "You want to know what I'm going to do to you?" I continued. Her breathing hitched, Just slightly. Yes. I closed my eyes briefly, then said the one thing she didn't expect. Nothing. Silence. Confusion. What? She whispered. I'm not exposing you, I said. I'm not destroying your reputation. I'm not leaking anything. Why? Her voice cracked for the first time. I opened my eyes. Because losing me is enough. That hit deeper than anything else I could have done. I could feel it. The silence stretched longer this time. Heavier. More real. You think that's punishment? She asked, but there was no strength left in her voice. No, I replied quietly. I think that's the truth. That evening, I went back to the office, not as the owner, not as the victim, but as someone who had finished what he started. The building felt different now. Quieter, almost hollow. Employees whispered in corners. Screens flickered with unresolved errors. The once vibrant energy had turned into something uncertain, fragile. And in the middle of it all, they stood there. Adil, broken. Bilal, defeated. And Sanaa, still standing, but barely. Their eyes found me the moment I walked in. No anger this time. No arrogance. Just realization. You planned all of this, Bilal said slowly. I didn't deny it. Adil shook his head, his voice hollow. You destroyed everything. I looked around the office, the place that once held my dreams. Then back at them. No, I said calmly. You did. Sanaa stepped forward, her eyes searching mine like she was looking for something, anything that still connected us. Is this what you wanted? She asked softly. I paused. For a moment, I considered the question. Then I answered honestly. No. Because this wasn't victory. It was closure. I wanted loyalty, I said. I wanted honesty. My gaze hardened. But I got betrayal. No one spoke after that. Because there was nothing left to say. As I turned to leave, one final thought settled in my mind. Revenge doesn't heal you. It doesn't fix what's broken. But it does one thing very well. It ends the illusion. And now, there were no illusions left. In the end, it wasn't the destruction that stayed with me. It was the silence after. Weeks passed. Not dramatically. Not with chaos, or headlines, or anything loud enough to match what had happened. Just quietly, like everything was slowly settling into place after a storm no one wanted to talk about. The company, gone. Not overnight, but piece by piece, like a structure with its foundation ripped out. Investors disappeared. Clients moved on. The name we once built with pride became something people avoided mentioning. A cautionary tale. A failed empire. And me. I walked away, not because I had to, but because there was nothing left worth staying for. I moved to a smaller place on the edge of the city. No glass walls. No boardrooms. No echoes of past laughter lingering in corners. Just a simple apartment with a balcony that overlooked a quiet street where life felt normal again. Or at least, something close to it. Every morning, I'd wake up before sunrise. Not because I needed to, but because sleep had become lighter, thinner. The kind that never fully pulls you under. I'd stand outside with a cup of coffee, watching the sky shift from darkness to soft light. And for the first time in years, there were no expectations waiting for me. No pressure. No one to prove anything to. Just me. And yet, something was missing. People think revenge brings closure. That once you settle the score, everything inside you resets. It doesn't. It just changes the weight you carry. Before it was betrayal. Now, it was emptiness. I saw a deal once. By accident. A small cafe, far from the places we used to go. He looked older. Not in years, but in something deeper. Like life had pressed harder on him than it should have. He noticed me too. For a second, we just stood there, both unsure what to do with the moment. Then he walked over. No anger. No excuses. Just quiet. I lost everything, he said simply. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't sound empty. I thought I was being smart, he continued, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. I thought I was finally getting ahead. His eyes met mine. I didn't realize I was losing the only real thing I had. That almost hurt more than the betrayal itself. Almost. You made your choice, I said quietly. He nodded. I know. And that was it. No dramatic ending. No forgiveness. Just two people, standing in the ruins of what used to be something real. Bilal. His story ended the way men like him fear the most. Not with failure, but with exposure, investigations, lawsuits. His name, once powerful, became something people whispered about with caution. He didn't fall loudly. He faded, and for someone like him, that was worse. And Sanaa, she was the only one I never ran into. Not once. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I realized it was distance. Intentional. Final. But one evening, as the sky burned orange before fading into dusk, I found something outside my door. A letter. No name. No return address. But I knew. I knew before I even opened it. I used to think love was something that stayed no matter what. That no matter how far you drifted, it would always find its way back. I was wrong. Not because love doesn't exist, but because I didn't protect it when I had it. I chose ambition. I chose control. I chose everything except you. And now I understand something I didn't before. Some losses don't come with second chances. You didn't destroy me. You just showed me who I became. And I don't recognize that person anymore. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. You were the only real thing in my life. Sanaa. I read it twice, then a third time. Not because I didn't understand it, but because a part of me wanted to feel something. Anger, relief, closure, anything. But all I felt was stillness. I folded the letter carefully and placed it on the table beside me. Not torn, not thrown away, just left there, like everything else. That night, I stood on the balcony longer than usual. The city lights flickered in the distance, soft and distant, like a life I used to live. And for the first time, I asked myself something I had been avoiding. Was it worth it? The revenge, the destruction, the ending I forced into existence. I thought about Adil's hollow eyes, Bilal's downfall, Sanaa's letter, and the version of myself that stood here now, quiet, alone, unchanged on the outside, but completely different inside. I exhaled slowly, and the answer came, not loud, not certain, but honest. It wasn't about worth, I whispered into the night. It was about truth, because in the end, I didn't destroy them. I just removed the mask, and what was left behind, that was who they always were. The wind moved gently against my face as I closed my eyes. Not at peace, not broken, just aware. And sometimes, that's the real ending. Not happiness, not revenge, but understanding.